Through the chair, the officers supporting us in this review met with Te Kawerau Omaki because in the operative plan there is a iwi statement from Te Kawerau around the importance of the Waitakere ranges and the indigenous vegetation on that, so that's why they met with Te Kawerau on that matter. Yeah.
So how did the other 6 groups come into? I understand they signal that they have an interest, what shape or form, but I was just, so they weren't, the other 6 groups weren't,
they weren't
part of the review?
No.
And was Te Kawerau Maki provided with a update or some kind of draft to consider the conclusions before it came here?
No, I don't think they, at that stage, that we hadn't formulated our conclusions and recommendations, but we'd have to ask our officers involved in that exactly how much information they're able to give them, but they were keen to get from them their views and concerns on the issue, so I believe that's what they did.
So we can't assume that the solutions put in place here are necessarily going to match what they think because we haven't had a conversation with them.
So we'll just get Warren McLennan to...
In particular, talking with Edward Ashby, it was his view that number 1 of the recommendations was a key one in terms of clearer summaries. He acknowledged that they hadn't responded to a number of these applications, partly because of their the way that they've been using their software. They've got new software now, but there's a lot of them for them to consider, and so they liked the idea of a clear set of information being provided, and that's our recommendation.
Right, so they saw this draft report?
No, they didn't see this draft. They saw, they raised this as a recommendation.
Okay. You refer to the iwi statement and the operative district plan. Did the original process consider that in the decision making?
The iwi statement is a general statement within the plan. It's not an objective or policy, but that's part of what we were saying. We needed to do some more work on the with the resource consents people around.
No, I get all that. I just mean in the actual process of making a decision on that consent, was it considered by consent officers or the independent?
I don't think it was specifically considered because it's not an objective or policy or rule. It's really there as supporting information in the Waitakere plan.
So I think what Warren is saying is it's not specifically mentioned in the planner's report. We can't say whether or not the planner did consider it when they were writing the report, because we didn't.
It's not in the report. They didn't place a credence or didn't consider it. I mean, and did I know iwi management plans in that area?
Not that we didn't go into that. We'd have to ask the question of that.
And again, I mean, and so I can appreciate it for that specific point. And there are issues around that relate to the broader systemic review, I believe. Are we taking into account, properly taking into account iwi statements, iwi management plans and the consent process? There's some very basic things that I'm not sure where that reflection is going. To the CIA working group?
So my recollection of the draft I've seen of that report is that they do pick up on the need to have a central location for exactly what you're talking about, so that resource consent applications can easily access that information. So I can certainly look at the draft report and let you know how it's been picked up.
Okay, and then just one more. I certainly heard the Deputy Mayor talk about sensitive areas, and I note that there's a recommendation around the Western Consents team having better training and supposedly, relating to that area. Of course, there are other sensitive areas in the Auckland region going forward, is that going to be looked at broader? I mean, for example, the Hauraki Gulf Marine Park Act is a classic, and I'm not aware of any other broader ones, but just to ensure that I think it doesn't happen somewhere else.
Yeah, I understand your point, Member Ngamane. I think we are now, we're traversing outside. I've got you, Councillor Fletcher. We're traversing outside the requirements of this report, which was extremely specific. It was to this area to look at the planning processes as they relate to the Waitakere Ranges Heritage Area using this particular idea, this particular application as an example. So I know that Dean is conducting a wider review of our consent area per se, and I think the issues that Member Ngamane raises are entirely appropriate to be picked up there. I just, however, want to also draw attention as one of the 3 councillors who was involved on the Waitakere side in negotiating the Waitakere Ranges Heritage Area Act, that Te Kawerau Amaki were partners and signatories to the process and are absolutely, you know, with us in regarding the decisions that were made on the Waitakere Ranges Act. I've got Councillor Fletcher, and then we'll move to the recommendations, which I'm going to move.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is to Dean Kimpton, and you may think it's tongue-in-cheek, but I want to say that I'm deadly serious about it. I really want Mr Kimpton to advise me, where Council is planning to spend a huge amount of money in IT, can he advise whether this is going to assist in what have, from what I'm hearing, communication difficulties that we've had on this, and certainly highlighted by the local board this morning?
So there's always 2 things that go to delivering good decisions, good outcomes. One is the processes that we use and the systems that support that, and the other one is the culture and the practice. And so my recommendation back into the organisation is that we look at both of those areas. So if we want to pin our hopes on delivering good outcomes on an IT system to support good process, we won't get the outcome we're hoping for. We need good people aware of issues, communicating well as well. So that may not be the answer you're looking for, but that's certainly how I look at delivering good outcomes. So when we look at New Core, it will facilitate communication, it will facilitate access to that information, but we've also got some basic systems, our customer relationship management system, and we need staff to use that. So there's the culture, the practice, and the systems that support that, and both have to go hand in hand.
Okay, well, I'm happy to move the recommendations, including the one that I've added at the end about the meeting with ministers. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Webster. We've traversed quite a lot of issues. Briefly, Councillor Walker.
Yeah, just a minor thing, just in the item that you've got there, I think it's, is it V11, where it says work with local boards after the election. Could we eliminate after the election? I mean, this is something that needs to occur on an ongoing basis, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, my understanding is that that's put in there. We're doing the work now, but this is to make sure that there's a refresh, because the boards will have, they will need to give their feedback. It's so that we don't forget and just move on. After each election, this refresh and discussion needs to happen.
Well, could I just say, Madam Chair, yes, that's right. And so we thought it particularly important that after an election, a new incoming membership of a local board had the opportunity to look at these issues and make clear what they wanted to be in the triggers.
Which is picking up Member Ngamane's point that there are sensitive areas around the region, and there may well be boards at the moment who are not interested in this and have no triggers and don't participate. A new board might come in who wishes to have a trigger discussion in a sensitive area, and this allows for that. Okay, any other speakers?
I was just, Madam Chair, about the recommendation.
Yep, to the recommendations.
So, because I haven't had an answer about the working group, is the 9.3 was that CIA project working group. Is that a recommendation?
Right,
So I asked if it was still operative. And I was gonna get,
CIA working group, yep.
and I was going to get an answer on that, but I don't know whether I'm voting for something that's non-existent or not.
Well, unfortunately, I'd have to go away and ring somebody. I don't know myself personally if it's still operational. If you want me to go and do that, I can do that now.
So, sorry, just clarify for us, Member Taipiri, the CIA working group in relation to the recommendations, so your
It
point
says refer to the report, that's what I've been reading off 32, is that right?
Hang on, are we on
John, I'm going to vote against the whole thing.
recommendation?
The last recommendation on page.
Vote against the whole thing.
It's in the report.
Oh, I see, cultural impact working group, right. Okay.
So,
Well, one would presume if it isn't currently meeting, it should do so to pick up this critical work that needs to be done. I don't think we can refer to it.
Warren's ringing up trying to get one of the two officers who are leading this process to find out the question. My understanding is that they have only done a draft recommendation report, but I could be wrong because I saw that a couple of months ago. We'll find out and if we can get through to them. Yeah.
All good? Councillor Casey.
I'd just like to move a vote of thanks to Michael Tavares. If he hadn't climbed
Yes,
the
I
tree,
second
it would have been down in the ground.
I'll second that, Madam Chair. Otherwise the tree wouldn't be here.
That's right.
Oh, councillors, I
Goodness
understand the
gracious me,
sentiment
this
and
is
the
not-
enthusiasm. I have to say, I don't know whether it was having someone up there or not, but there was certainly a huge amount of work done by the local board and everyone else who picked up the issue. So I think we acknowledge, but I don't think it needs to be in the form of recommendation. The thanks have been made. Any other speakers
we
to
put
the
it-
recommendation? I'll just wait for Warren to come back with our answer. Councillor Wayne Walker?
It's just around item 1, and I'm not suggesting that it requires a change to the recommendation, but I'm making the assumption that implicit in how the resource consent team does this review, that it actually does that in collaboration with the local board, so that we've got a process that's actually working for them rather than being imposed.
Madam Chair, yes, I would expect that would be the case.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Dean and I have just had a talk that the logic seems to say that if there is work being done on the CIA assessments and there's a input needed on this issue, the group meets from time to time, they will meet and this will be given to them for their information and the work to be done. Agreed.
Yes, I think you can take that assumption, Madam Chair, and if they are not meeting, then we'd be very happy to work with IMSB on some ways of making sure these issues are communicated.
Indeed. Okay. All right. That's been moved and seconded. I will put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against?
No.
Councillor Lee and Councillor Casey for a no.
Just a cover-up.
And Councillor Watson. Okay, let's not do this then. Right, thank you. Thank you, team, for the hard work making this happen, acknowledging our local board for their passion and commitment to seeing right be done by good process. It's appreciated and changes will be made.